All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. My name's Travis. We're here with Travis with Car Talk and presented by Maple Mountain Recovery. And this is going to be our first podcast. So we're going to do a podcast and then also a live video. I've got my beautiful wife here with me. Say hi.
Hi.
So today I just wanted to for the very first one, I wanted to talk what it's like to live with somebody that's an addict, and just talk about that a little bit, and we'll just kind of start. What was it like?
Well, it happened so gradually that it's hard to really describe. I know because it happened so gradually and I got sick with you gradually that I didn't really understand exactly what was going on, I guess, at the time until things really fell apart. But a lot of chaos, a lot of rescuing, a lot of covering up, a lot of enabling was really hell at the end. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. Hypervigilant, wondering what was going to happen and when it was going to happen. Just always like survival mode, like never being able to relax or, worrying all the time. And
Well, I remember at the end, you were always worried about that knock at the door when I was going to be dead or not.
yeah, call or knock. Yeah.
So I know there's a lot during my addiction when it got really bad that I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
We've worked through and we've talked about things with our children and whatnot. But when it first started out, I mean, it was like 12 years total. When it first started out, I was prescribed pain pills from a doctor from a back injury from playing basketball, and it all started out with Oxycontin. I mean, not Oxycontin, Loratab.
Yeah.
So at first, it's like it managed my pain, and it was something that didn't control my life. And then about 1996, because I was going through so much of the Loratab and the Percocet, Oxycontin got introduced, and I feel like that's when the beginning of the out of control kind of started. Talk about. I want to bring the family side. So I want you to talk about the ugly, the lying, the manipulating, the things that I did. Losing jobs, getting arrested. That's kind of what the addiction led to. And I talk about the journey a lot, but people want to hear, like, how did you protect our kids, and how did you protect yourself? And
I don't think I did. Maybe a false sense of that I was protecting them by trying to cover up and make everything okay and trying to rescue you and make you better. But that's not the reality. I mean, our kids were exposed to every bit of it that I was trying to shield them from, and it's had negative effects on them
to this day.
Yeah. I mean, it's not something that you can control. I mean, that's the false reality. I mean, you think that you have some control over somebody else's behavior or someone else's addiction, and you don't. And that's when I finally realized, like, I'm destroying myself. I became sick. I mean, mentally and physically. Like, I couldn't eat. I lost, like, I want to say 40 pounds. I was going to the doctor because I felt miserable. I mean, my chemical imbalances and just all sorts of crazy stuff were going on in my body, and it was because I was under so much stress. And you can't. I mean, you're living a lie if you're trying to. And it was a secret at that time. Like, nobody knew. And finally, one day, I don't know, it's like a lightning bolt hit me, and I couldn't live like that anymore. And I couldn't let you destroy me and our kids. That's when I took my control back, I guess.
Your power.
My power. What I had control over was how I was reacting to your addiction.
Yeah. You know, I look back now and it's like, in being in the industry of helping people that are struggling like I went through, and addiction and mental health, and it's like, it's just one of those things where I try to explain to people that don't understand it. It's like Jekyll and Hyde. It's like one minute you're one person, the person you married, and then the darkness kind of, comes in over a period of time, and that's the car wrecks start happening, the lies, the stealing, the loss of jobs, getting arrested. Those are just kind of things that as it continues to progress to. And I like to tell people that, addiction, there's no happy ending. It doesn't continue to get better. And I was at a place where I thought that death was what was going to happen to me. It had gotten so bad right up, those last few years were so horrible that I just didn't know a way out. And here we are sitting talking about this, and our family is almost in 11 years of recovery. And, on the way here, what's going through my mind is, I want to bring awareness because I want to help people, and I want people to get the help they need. And, I'm sitting here thinking about all the family and friends and people that we've lost, either death by suicide or addiction, is an unbelievable amount. I feel like it's got to be at least family members, I think around 7. And then you add in all the friends or friends that are still stuck in addiction, and we see what that does to the family, and now I get a picture of that being sober. I can see the destruction, but I think when we're in it, we don't understand. We don't get the pain that we're bringing on to the families, and ulcers, and taking FMLA because I've made you so sick, and you're trying to protect the kids, and I'm going to families and our families, and coming up with things to get money, or lying, or pawning stuff, or doing whatever. And when you're in that, it's like a survival mode, because you have to have the drugs, because you have to stay well. And it's hard to explain to people until you get some clarity and you start working on some issues and working on the reasons why you use drugs and alcohol. And I know I did a lot of damage in that period of time, but it really started with me getting well before we could even work through any issues. And I like to tell people that until you get well, you can't work through issues with your family. No. And talk about some of the things that it's done to our kids, and we'll keep names out of it, but some of the kind of the aftermath,
Well, I'd like to go back and just talk about the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing.
Yeah.
I think that's why so many people, it's so hard for so many people when your loved one is an addict, is because there were those little glimmers of, oh, that's the Travis that I married. There he is. That's the man I love. And then, a day later, it's this man that I don't know. And I tell people all the time, you looked different. You talked different. It was like something took over you, and it was just, so in my mind, during that time, there's 2 different Travises. There's this man that I married and that I knew was in there somewhere, and then this evil demon that would take over and that I hated. It's emotionally like just so confusing, like, and I kept thinking you were gonna come back, like, because I would see that person every now and again. And I remember in treatment when I came one day and I was like, oh, he's back, there he is. Like, they talk about the light coming back in people's eyes, and I saw that light come back into your eyes, and that gave me so much hope. I remember that day. But we know that that's not the end of our journey. Treatment was great and it gave you a foundation, but it doesn't solve all the problems.
No.
So 90 days, you come home and I think everything's better and you're better and everything's gonna fall back in place, and that's not what happened. And destructive behaviors came back into play, not necessarily drugs or alcohol, but other destructive things, and then I fell back into my old pattern of enabling and rescuing and covering up, and that chaos was back, and it felt the same. I mean, there was just, and that, I mean, of course, our kids are living in that constant chaos, and they're in a state of hypervigilance and survival mode, and they think they're protecting me by, being angry at you, and it's all your fault. And I had, friends even say that, it's all Travis's fault. Travis is the one that did all this. Yeah, but I'm just as much to blame because I allowed this to happen, first of all, and I'm just as sick as him, like, and one day I realized, like, it's not going to change unless I make a change. So we separated for 3 years, about 3 years. And that's really the only way we could get better, is away from each other. Like, you had to figure it out on your own, not me to rescue you. Or
well, and I think also, I mean, it does take up to 5 years, I believe, for your brain to start healing and getting new patterns. And I think that when I got out, you have that where everything feels great because you've removed the drugs and alcohol, but there still was something that I didn't feel whole, and I didn't feel like that worthiness yet, I guess, because I had done so much damage. I mean, with the seizures and the overdoses and the car wrecks, and I mean, there's got to be something that when you're abusing your body that much and taking that much drugs, that it does something to you. So,
well,
90 days is a good start to get sober, but you need to continue finding healthy patterns, I think, too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, recovery's hard, right? I mean, you get out and then you have a record, and you haven't been working for how long, and trying to find a job was hard. And you didn't have a license at the time because your license had been taken away.
License was suspended, and I think I was turned down for 22 jobs because I was arrested for doctor shopping. So when you I did a great job interviews, and my resume was great, and but then they do the background check, and you get the letter in the mail saying, thank you, we're going to go with another candidate at this time.
So it's just like,
it's just
punch after punch after punch.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, I know it's hard for everyone, I mean, everyone that we know that has gone through addiction and then recovery, it's not easy.
No.
I mean, and people who think it's going to be, I mean, you're setting yourself up for failure, I think. I mean, it's a long process. It's not a 90-day fix.
No. And a lot of people, unfortunately, fall back into the unhealthy habits and recovery, and addiction.
With family members and friends.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have to go back to a healthy environment. And I mean, I know our house wasn't healthy. I wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
So, like, that whole dynamic plays a huge part. Plus, I mean, aftercare is such a huge part, and we didn't understand that at that time, like,
well, and then
how important it was.
I think getting the kids into something right away as well, I think, is huge.
Yeah.
It's something that we talk about all the time now, is it's always okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
Because I know I did a lot of damage. I own that. I understand it. I wish I could take it back, and I wish I could fix it, but I can't. What I can do is just support our kids in getting the help they need so they can live their best life, because I don't want our grandkids to go through this. I mean, it's been,
stop the cycle.
Yeah. It's been hell. And I remember talking about employment. I remember before I got into this industry, just showing up to a guy's place and getting paid like $10 an hour to do maintenance on condos. I mean, I was willing to do just whatever it took.
Yeah, I think that's too. A lot of people, pride gets in the way, but I mean, you have to start somewhere. I mean, yeah.
And then life's hard. I mean, it is. Life's difficult. It's you gotta take it one day at a time. You're gonna have your good days, you're gonna have your bad days, but at the end of the day, you gotta talk about it, you gotta work through it and find a way. And the reality is most people's marriages do end, you know, and because there is so much damage, sometimes it's not repairable. I think we've done some great work coming up on 26 years of marriage, and you know, do all this to try to share our journey and to help others know that what they're going through is something you can work through to try to overcome. That there's a lot of people that, like you were saying, that are silent about their issues. They don't talk about it. They don't go and get help. And unfortunately, it doesn't always end the best way.
And I don't think it would have. I don't think we would be together if we hadn't separated for those.
Yeah.
For that time. I know for sure.
Yeah.
It was over for me when we separated.
I had signed divorce papers.
Yeah, we were.
You know,
divorce papers were ready. Yeah. And our oldest was having a really hard time.
Yeah.
He didn't have anything to do with you. I didn't want anything to do with you, and
I think we talked for like 2 years.
yeah, I was really struggling, and one day I just woke up again. There's that lightning bolt, and I remember thinking, he thinks that he has to hate you to love me or to protect me.
Yeah.
So that's when I sort of softened my heart, and I thought, well, I need to repair the relationship, not necessarily get back together with you, but repair a relationship to co-parent our kids. And I knew you had, at that point, I didn't want to admit, but I knew that you really had done the work and were a different person, or the person that I always knew you could be, I guess.
Yeah.
That person I hoped you could be. But you know, pride gets in the way of a lot of things, I think, for people. And I had just lost my brother 6 months before to suicide, and my mom died just 2 months before that. And I remember thinking, gosh, I'm mourning these people that I can never have back, and I'm mourning you, and you're here. I mean, I'm mourning our marriage and mourning our relationship, and you're still here. So yeah, it was a hard thing for me to swallow my pride and kind of break down those walls. And at the beginning it was just, you know, let's co-parent, let's be friends. And then it developed into, I mean, we're meant to be, I guess, because here we are. I mean, and forgiveness lifted a huge burden off of me. I mean, I was definitely stuck in survival mode, and that's not a good place to be. A lot of anger and resentment, and it's just not a good place to be for anyone. And I mean, I know everyone has their own past and their own way to heal, but for me, that was huge.
Well, and I know I've made a lot of mistakes. It's not something you can take back. And I'm one of those, our first year, I think, or first year and a half, or first 2 years of separation, I was like constantly trying to get you back.
Yeah.
And then it was with Cameron, or two, is that trying to fix things with our kids. Like, I'm sorry I messed up, let's fix this. Like, I needed that instant, okay, that everything's gonna be all right. And I had to learn during that 3 years that it's not all about me. It's all about timing. It's all about people, you know, and healing when they're ready, and just being there when people are ready. So doing the work and not just talking about it and saying that I'm better.
Yeah, what do we always say?
Yeah.
The best apology is changed behavior.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had to learn that.
Yeah, we finally saw that, I think.
Yeah.
Even the kid, I remember the girls would always, Dad's really different, Mom. You know, he's so funny, and you should really talk to him again.
It's been a crazy journey.
Yeah.
But I mean, life goes by fast. You know, as we've seen in the last few weeks, it can be ended at any moment. And I think some big advice to give people is make those amends, you know, forgive, you know, do the best you can to.
Well, and forgiveness doesn't have to be this.
Yeah.
You know, doesn't have to be getting back together with someone who's done too much damage in your life, but
But at least not hold on to that
Yeah,
anger
don't-
because it just makes
yeah.
yourself sick.
yeah, it doesn't do good things
Yeah.
for you. Yeah.
So, I mean, and there's, we'll maybe get into it another time, but I mean, in the 12 years, we've kind of just talked about some. I mean, there were a lot of bad, dark days, and I did a lot of horrible things, and we're not really getting into the ugly. And
I
we've
think
talked-
anyone who's been in addiction
Yeah.
or has a loved one in addiction can kind of fill in those blanks, but
Yeah.
I don't like, that was a different person, and that's how I think about it in my mind.
Yeah.
Addiction hijacked you, and you were gone for a while.
But if you're loved ones, I mean, I think it's important that you get the help you need.
Oh, for sure.
So you have to learn how to set healthy boundaries and how to protect yourself and get the help you need. You can't fix people,
No.
and
I remember the day I realized that. I mean, I literally let go and let God, and one of the things that I remember running through my mind is he might die. And that's the way it's going to be, because he might die. And that was, really the reality. But if we stayed together, he might take me with him.
yeah, I mean, I look back and think of all the car wrecks and driving the truck off the bridge, and then the last accident with the rollover, and that's the only thing I remember about that, and we talk about it, is the out-of-body experience that I had. And this is something that is so still almost 11 years, like right in my head, of being taken out of the car in the hospital and looking down at myself with my guardian angel going, you got three choices, because he's so exhausted from keeping me alive. I guess addicts, we're always on the edge of possibly die at any time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot that goes on. And saying you need to pick one, and the three options are, recovery, death, or you're going to probably end up going to prison because you're going to kill somebody from the choices you're making.
Yeah.
I just remember that very vividly, and chose recovery, and the journey began, and I had a lot of help along the way with friends and you and whatnot. But I finally went to that place that I was ready, because I know I was going to die. I was right there.
Yeah.
It was pick one. Like, what do you want? Because this can't continue to happen.
Yeah.
So recovery is a beautiful journey. It's tough. It's not easy. And it does get better the longer. You have a lot of debt to make up and take care of, and you've got relationships to do your best to maintain and repair, and to deal with all of those things, staying sober. That's the thing. You're gonna have life stresses, but you got to find a way to deal with that stuff.
Yeah.
So, any last minute advice or anything you'd like to say?
I would say, if you're a family member, don't wait even if your loved one isn't ready to get help for their addiction, you go get help, because you're just as sick as they are right now. Honestly, if you're enabling, and if I know it's so hard because I didn't even realize that I was doing it, but if you're making their life comfortable, then you're probably enabling, and that's preventing them from getting the help they need. So I would say get help, learn how to set up with a professional, learn how to set up healthy boundaries, learn how to protect yourself so that you're not contributing to their addiction. I know that's hard for people to hear sometimes, because they don't want to think that they're sick.
Yeah.
But it's a family disease.
Well, you don't know you're sick until you kind of remove that and then get some outside perspective of what's going on, so they can say, that's not normal.
Yeah.
Just so you're aware, this is, because when we are in addiction, we're master manipulators. We'll make you think you're crazy. And we tell so many lies that we don't know what the truth is.
Yeah.
And so we just continue that cycle, because we just...
And like, I knew I wasn't crazy, but I felt crazy because when the cycles, and like when you would talk to me, then I would feel like could be because you're a manipulator. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, I would feel crazy. Okay, like, okay, I am crazy. Gosh, it's just a vicious cycle, and you can't. I mean, it's so draining on your health and your mental health and your physical health, and it's not good.
Yeah.
For you. So yeah, I would say please get help, even if your loved one isn't ready. Get the help for you, and then hopefully they'll follow suit. And then you're in it together. You gotta stick together in the recovery process. If you want a happy outcome.
Yep, absolutely. So thank you for joining. This is our first one, and we'll get better at it, and we'll get the proper equipment to do it. And I appreciate you for coming on and talking a little bit
and
about it.
And we do have a lot of, we do laugh a lot and have a lot of fun. I know this is like
do.
serious and like topics, and
I'm a little crazy,
but we have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We laugh a lot, so I don't want people to think, oh my gosh, they're so boring and serious. Like, no, we laugh a lot. Our kids are hilarious, and we all have a good time together.
Well, I've always been a jokester and love people and fun, and I lost my identity during those times, and we've been in, you think about addiction and recovery, it's like 23, 24 years, so that's been a huge part of our lives.
Yeah.
And so, and again, I'm going to say it, it's not just me that's in recovery, it's family recovery, so they're part of the addiction, they got to be part of the recovery process, and we need to include everybody in that, so.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you. How long?